So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON West, outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram for the Sunday evening um, Krishna Conscious program. So we are today happy to have His Grace Kapil Gaur Prabhu. He will be giving us this Bhagavad Gita class. Kapil Gaur Prabhu, as you all, most of you know, has been with us for more than 5-6 years, and he has been sincerely practicing Krishna consciousness. He is a 16 rounder for a couple of years now, and also a sincere reader of Srila Prabhupada books. So he has been part of our Bhakti Vriksha, Bhakti Sadan, and even our temple activities. Has been coordinating many activities for the temple from an online perspective also. So we take pleasure in inviting Prabhu to give us this today's class. Looking forward to hearing from you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity. This is the first time you have, considered me, and I am really blessed that, you have considered somebody, like me, because we have so many senior devotees in the group. But I'm sure, I'll, with all you people and, grace of Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and you and all the senior devotees, I'll be able to, give something meaningful. So my Dandvat Pranam to all the senior devotees and all the devotees in the Bhakti Sadhan group, and all those who are watching our live feed on YouTube. So I'll be sharing my screen right now, and Hare Krishna. So last time Prabhuji had done extensive session on 5.26. So today we will be going with an important verse 5.27 and 28. And in the last verse, it was extensively explained about controlling senses. So this talks something in extension to that. So let me have a read of this. स्पर्शा कृत्वा बहिर्भम्य चक्षु चवन्तरे भ्रुवो प्राणपणु समो कृत्वा नाशाभन्तरी चरिणो यतीन्द्रिया मनो बुद्धिर मुनिर्मोक्षपरायण विगतच्छेवः क्रोधो य सदा मुक्त एव स स्पर्शा कृत्वा बहिर्भम्य चक्षुर्चैवन्तरे भ्रुवो प्राणपाणो सामाहु कृत्वा नस्याभन्तरः चारिणो यतेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिर्मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगते च भयक्रोधो य सदा मुक्ति एव च. Synonyms: sparshan, sense objects such as sound; kritva, keeping; bahi, external; bhayan, unnecessarily; chakshu, chakshus, eyes; cha, also; eva, certainly; antare, between; bhruvo, the eyebrows; prana, pranapana, up and down moving air; samau, in suspension; kritva, keeping; nasa, nasa abhyantara, within the nostrils; charino, blowing; yata, controlled; indriya, senses; mana, mind; buddhi, intelligence; muni, the transcendentalist; moksha, for liberation; parayana, being so destined; vigata, having discarded; ichha, wishes; bhay, fear; krodha, anger; ya, one who; sada, always; mukta, liberated; eva, certainly; sa, he is. Translation: shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendental aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Purport by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Being engaged in Sri Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by practice of the mysticism or yoga known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible into eightfold procedure called Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. In the sixth chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and at the end of the fifth, it is only preliminarily explained. One has to drive out the sense objects such as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell by pratyahara process in yoga, and then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows and concentrate on the tip of the nose with half closed lids. There is no benefit in closing the eyes altogether because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is there any benefit in keeping opening the eyes completely because then there is the hazard of being attracted by sense objects. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostrils by neutralizing the up moving and down moving air within the body. By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control over the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. This yoga process helps one to become free from all kinds of fear and anger and thus feel the presence of the Supreme Soul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the senses than by Ashtanga yoga. ओम अज्ञानं तिमिरसन्ध्या ज्ञानशलाख्या चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं गुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरु वैष्णव श्रीरूपं सगरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथवितं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सवाधुतं परिगण सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदम सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखावतं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपीशा गोपिका कांता राधा कृष्ण नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचा गौरंगी राधा वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणामी हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पा तरुभ्य च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपष्टा भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम तत्सत। So, going to the purport of this verse, as Prabhuji had thoroughly explained in the last chapter, in the last verse, there was a lot of focus on controlling the senses, primarily by controlling anger and lust. Now, if we get into the details of what yoga is, so actually, basically, yoga means union, and union what essentially union means is union with Supreme Lord, union with the super soul. In today's times, yoga sometimes is considered as some bodily exercise, or is considered for keeping oneself fit, or doing heavy breathing. It has become a kind of a fashion, where people go to various kind of institutes. They adopt various kind of gurus. Even the government has started some kind of initiative. So people get confused. But basically, what yoga essentially means is, connecting the soul with the super soul. Because yoga means, unison, and unison of the soul with the super soul. So how we can connect that is basically the main purpose of yoga. And obviously there are various stages of yoga which one has to go through various lifetimes, or one would have done some kind of yoga in previous lifetime, where they have achieved some kind of achievement in the current lifetime, so that they have reached a platform. They have reached a platform where they can understand a bit of bhakti yoga. Okay, but essentially, what yoga is, what the fastest process is, bhakti yoga. So this verse, particularly if you get into this verse is actually the prelude to what will be taught in from chapter 7 onwards. So it is just just an overview of what will be taught in 6th chapter about Ashtanga yoga, wherein Krishna is mentioning yoga, that mentioning Arjuna. This is also one of the methods to understand Krishna, to understand the super soul. And as you can see in the purport, Prabhupada has clearly mentioned that in the end he has mentioned about bhakti yoga. So that is the beauty of all Prabhupada purports, that whatever is being mentioned in the end, the fastest process is usually mentioned over there, right? So now if we go ahead and understand, okay, this is yoga. Now in yoga, what happens is we have different kind of so basically it is about connecting with God. Now we can connect with God based on various means. There is now with the bhakti process which we can follow, and we can follow in terms of whatever relation we have with God. Whether it is dasta relation, sakya relation, vatsalya relation, or madhurya relation. So essentially, yoga means serving Krishna, right? So the uh, whole summary of Bhagavad Gita, which is mentioned in verse 18, chapter 18, verse 56 is, Sarva Dharman. So the whole purpose is basically to understand Krishna and to surrender to Krishna. And Ashtanga yoga is just one of the yogas which can be followed, but it will take many lifetimes for people to understand. Even in one of the chapters where Krishna is explaining, Arjuna says that this is a very difficult process for me to understand. So if Arjuna is telling this to Krishna, then common souls will not be able to understand at all that what this Ashtanga yoga is, and especially in this Kali Yuga times. So basically, if you see what Prabhupada has done, and what Prabhupada has done through this movement and Sankirtan movement, he has ensured that the whole process becomes very practical. And to make this process practical, essentially we have to start step by step, right? So though Ashtanga yoga, he has in the purport, it has been given that Ashtanga means 8. There are 8 processes. But if we go through those 8 processes, and still at the end of the day, at the end of our lifetime, we are not able to understand Krishna, so it is of no use. Okay, and there are certain philosophies, like impersonal philosophies and Advaita philosophy, where they say that, okay, if you are united with yourself or something similar, then you have understood Krishna, and you have understood God. You have understood everything. So basically, those kind of processes are not actually what yoga is. So yoga is understanding the super soul, which is Krishna, serving Krishna, reviving our forgetful relation with Krishna. So if we go to the lower details of yoga. Now, yoga, there are basically, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, karma yoga is there, jnana yoga is there, ashtanga yoga is there, and obviously bhakti yoga is there. Now, in karma yoga, there are people, who always think that, okay, if I am doing my karma properly, if I am doing my office work properly, I am, true to my boss, I am true to my wife, then I have achieved whatever I wanted to achieve. Okay, that is just the basic thing. But that if that does not lead to Krishna, then it is of no. Right. Similarly, in Jnana Yoga, some people think that, okay, if I have understood what, if I have understood some of the philosophies, if I have understood, read some of the Vedas, then I have reached a platform where I can achieve liberation. Okay. So these are some of the things which I'm telling, which people tend to think or tend to believe what yoga is, what karma yoga is, what jnana yoga is. And then what ashtanga yoga is, we all what people believe that, okay, some exercises which we need to follow, some processes which we need to follow, some breathing pattern which we need to follow, and if we do that, at the end of the day, we will, and some of these yoga teachers will tell in that way that you will be able to connect with God, connect with your soul, and connect with the supreme. So this is what people are confused. But Prabhupada has made it very simple. Prabhupada has told that we can easily bypass all these processes because A, they are very difficult, and B, they are very confusing. And what is also important is that it is not, people are not able to work in this yoga, because in the past yoga, things were easy, people had long life, and it were easy to concentrate. But in today's times, it is very difficult. So Prabhupada has clearly mentioned in the purport that, ultimately Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga, and we need to follow it. So now if we see, in Bhagavad Gita itself, for Karma Yoga, there is something what we need to do. How we need to do Karma Yoga is basically whatever tasks we are doing, we need to dovetail to Krishna. Whatever food stuff we are eating, we need to offer to Krishna. So in a way, we are doing Karma Yoga in that sense also, right? And if we have this understanding, like for example, in 9th chapter, 27 verse, Krishna explains to Arjuna, you give away all your fruits to me, offer everything to me, then you will be able to successfully understand. And so that is the proper definition of Karma Yoga. In terms of Jnana Yoga, people have read a lot of Vedas and all, but if somebody has come to the conclusion that, I am not the body and I am the soul, and Krishna has clearly mentioned that in the 20th verse of 2nd chapter. So that is the real understanding of Jnana Yoga. Okay, now if we, so basically Ashtanga Yoga, basically if we come to Ashtanga Yoga and break it down to the 7 parts, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyaharas, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So if we, get down to the lower level details of these, so basically Yama means don'ts. Now, don'ts are something which, in the normal sense, it can be, and it is mentioned in detail in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita that, all the things that are required. But basically, don'ts, if we follow the 4 don'ts, which are prescribed, that no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. So they are also part of our Yama only. Okay, the don'ts. And the do's are something where, whatever, so for instance, if you are not eating meat, you are doing non-violence. So that is a do, right? In case, you are not doing illicit sex, so that is socham, right? Cleanliness. So basically, if we follow, so the whole crux is that if we follow the pattern set up in Bhakti Yoga, automatically we are following the Ashtanga Yoga itself. So now, for example, Yama, I mentioned about don'ts. Niyama, I mentioned about do's. Now asanas. Now asanas, if we read sixth chapter, it has been mentioned that we need to go to some secluded place, sit in a forest with a deer skin, with a wax straight. It is so difficult. We all know that even sitting for 2 hours for office work, we start getting backaches. Okay, so now in Kali Yuga, it is impossible to sit in that position, and it is impossible to find peace there. Because there are so many things where some noise will come, and so it is basically very difficult to do dhyan. I remember we all have undergone those kind of sessions, somewhere in our lives or professional personal life, where somebody has told us to shut our eyes and meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and we find it very difficult. Right, we find it very difficult because and at times we wonder that when will these 5 minutes get over. So this shows that the mind is very agitated, even though we realize or don't realize, and that's why it is impractical to do these things. And thus, by doing bhakti yoga, somehow we are meeting these things. Right now, if we talk about we've covered yam, niyam, asana. Now, if we talk about pranayams, so pranayam says controlling the air. Now, controlling the air. Now, whenever we are chanting, whenever we are singing, and whenever we are doing, whenever we are jumping in the temple, so we are able to do some of the breathings for Krishna, and we are able to offer those breaths to Krishna. So that itself means that the pranayam is also happening automatically. Okay, now if somebody is doing 1 round, 2 round, 4 round, 16, 64, whatever, so he is offering those breaths to Krishna, and in a way, so pranayam is also happening automatically in that sense. Right now, if you talk about pratyaharas, and pratyaharas is basically controlling senses. Prabhupada in one of the purports has already mentioned, that how difficult it is for human beings to control senses. Right, because he's given examples of 5 animals: deer, elephant, insect, bee, fish. Just because of one sense, they find it difficult and end up losing themselves or their identity. Right, deer, for instance, is so attracted to the smell, and finally, the hunter catches. Elephant is attracted to the sense of touch, and the female elephant and falls in the trap of the hunter. Insects are attracted to the light, and then and they get killed by that light. Similarly, bees are attracted to the smell of the flower, and fishes are attracted to the tongue, whatever the fisherman throws. And basically, just by one sense, they lose their identity. So we, as human beings, have 5 senses, and all of 5 senses are supremely active. So now, if we just control them artificially, it is very difficult. So what we need to do, we need to, as our acharyas and Prabhupads through the disciplic succession have told, that we need to develop a higher taste. The higher taste, for some, so that automatically whatever attraction we had for the senses is taken away with the higher taste, with the higher taste. Right? For example, if we are attracted to some film music, so instead of listening to film music, if we listen to Kirtan, or if we listen to Prabhupada lectures or Guru Maharaj lectures, so our time our ears will be attracted to that. While driving, most of us had a habit, of listening to film songs. Now it is impossible. It is impossible that if I drive for 4 hours, on a daily basis, that I don't open something, so that I get entertained for my ears. So instead of opening, FM or film music, if I open Kirtan or if I open lectures, then that entertainment, that material entertainment is replaced by spiritual entertainment. So that way it is very easy to control, my. So that way it is very easy to dovetail my ears from material to spiritual world. Now, if I just keep sitting in the car and if I don't switch on the music and 4 hours I am just driving, then what happens? I get lost in my own thoughts, and most often those thoughts will be material thoughts. Okay, what will happen in my office? What will happen in the next elections? Okay, will Modi come? Will Rahul come? These kind of thoughts, because continuously, we are bombarded with these kind of thoughts wherever we. If some person is talking in our office something which is very much high ogra, where our bosses are continuously chasing us, so it is quite natural for us to get lost in those thoughts, unless and until we have a discipline of putting this kind of spiritual entertainment in that time, right? Now, whenever we open any kind of, whenever we open our phone, uh, whether we open our WhatsApp, whether we open our YouTube, whether we open any kind of basic website like Times of India and all, we are obviously served some things which are materially uh, attractive, and it is not possible in today's time that I or any one of us just has that simple phone, because we are connecting to people, we are connecting to our Bhakti Viksha group, we are taking Zoom classes. So we need to basically ensure that whatever time we have, it is aligned to, so that our senses are controlled. And if we want to eat, something, we need to offer it to Krishna and then eat, because it's not possible that if I want to eat Haldiram Gulab Jamun, I am attracted to Haldiram Gulab Jamun. It is not possible that I don't eat it. Maybe 1 month, 2 months, but in due course of time, I will be attracted to that. So instead of eating Haldiram Gulab Jamun, I'll tell my wife to prepare Gulab Jamun, offer it to Krishna, and then eat, because that is a more sustainable and practical way. And in that way, we are following pratyahara, like controlling senses, because we have developed a higher taste. Now, for instance, and Prabhuji has mentioned about himself also, and we all have gone through that phase, that where there was a time we were attracted to lower taste, like film music, or what is happening in the news, and which song is the latest song, you know. But now it does not matter to us. Okay, it doesn't attract also, we don't open, we have, most of us have not opened television channels for many years, but we have not missed it at all. Now suppose we were not in spirituality and we were just sitting at home, not doing anything, and not opening television, not opening internet, then maybe 1 or 2 days we would have survived without it. But after that we would have got agitated. So basically, if we dovetail our senses towards spirituality, and then it is very easy to control senses. It is very easy to control senses, because everything, like for instance, the example of Amrish Maharaj, he was using all his senses. He was using all his senses. At the same time, everything was aligned to Krishna, right? So all the five senses, all the limbs, everything was aligned to Krishna. It was very easy for him to follow Krishna consciousness or spirituality. So that is pratyahara. Now, dharana. Dharana, which is the sixth one, which means, fixing the mind upon me. So fixing the mind upon me, of course, as I just now explained, if all our senses will be thinking about Krishna, or our tongue will be tasting food about Krishna, ears will be hearing, and one of the Navaveda Bhakti process will be following or if we will be connected to Krishna. So in our conscious and subconscious mind, we will be dealing with Krishna on a daily basis. And if we do that, so our mind will be fixed upon. Right? Like for instance, if I tell you about myself, uh, I was attracted to cricket. I was attracted to some Sachin Tendulkar. So whatever I used to do, whatever I used to think, everything used to be Sachin Tendulkar. That how many runs he'll score, what will he do? Will India win? Will India? If India used to lose, I used to feel bad. When India used to win, I used to feel happy. Right. So in that way, I was continuously thinking about the same thing. Right. And now what has happened, that same thing has been if it is replaced by Krishna, then it becomes very easy, because my mind is always fixed upon. Now we have seen practical example that in our lives, suppose some event is happening, some marriage is happening, some guest is coming, or some examination which we need to give, or some appraisal is coming, or some presentation. We are just focused on that. When we get up in the night, when we get up in the morning, when we sleep in the night, when we get up in the morning, continuously we are thinking about that, right? So if we are focused towards Krishna, sleeping daytime, we will think about Krishna. I remember one advertisement, used to come, eat, sleep, eat cricket, sleep, drink cricket. So that is actually possible. That is only possible if we fixed upon the mind, if we engage our senses towards that. So now, if we do pratyahara, and we control our senses and dovetail them towards Krishna and Krishna consciousness, and Krishna consciousness has so many activities. Like every person has some skill or other which can be utilized, right? Even a skillless person like me, Vidar Prabhu has assigned me one skill of just forwarding WhatsApp. That if you can't do anything, at least you can forward WhatsApp message, right? So this shows that there is something to offer, for everyone in Krishna consciousness, and that way, if we do, then even we will have the mind fixed upon Krishna, which is explained in the 8th verse of the 12th chapter. Now, then comes dhyana, right? So concentration, fixing upon mind, upon me, and then dhyana. So dhyana is something which is almost same. Okay, if you talk about the some 7th verse of the 8th chapter, where Krishna mentions that Arjuna always think of me and try to focus on me, right? So it is something where again, it is going. If you see the chronological order, first we are doing yam, which is don'ts, then do's, then pranayam, pratyaharas, dharana, and dhyan. Automatically, dhyan will happen, right? It is not very difficult. If somebody, we have so many examples of acharyas, we have so many examples where people who are actually engaging their senses and in doing in a practical way are actually much more progressive in Krishna consciousness and spirituality than normal people. We have various examples. We have examples of Vishwamitra, who Guru Vishwamitra, who was doing Ashtang yoga. Uh, and we all know the story where he concentrated upon and did so much of meditation for so many years. But every time he used to uh, get some positive result, he used to lose it, whether it is by anger or by lust. So because it was so difficult, because he was basically following the process of the actual Ashtanga yoga, right? And then we have example of Saubari Muni, who was doing Ashtanga yoga and meditation underwater, and he went to water thinking that all there is a thing where I will see from the outside world, and in water I will do it without any distraction. But even in the water, he had to face a challenge, because when he saw, with his eyes open, and that's why, it has been mentioned here. Okay, that you can't close your eyes, you can't keep your eyes open, because if you close your eyes, there is a chance of falling asleep. If you open your eyes, there is a chance of getting distracted. So you have to be somewhere in between. But again, we all know this is very difficult. Okay. Uh, so now coming back to this example, so he was distracted by watching fish, and fish were mating, and just by seeing that, he got so agitated that he came out of his meditation state, and he went to the king and used all his whatever gains he had done by meditation and worshiping, and then he married the daughters of the king. And after spending whole life, then he realized that he did a mistake. Similarly with Vishwamitra, it has happened. We all know the story of that. But if you see the story of Amrish Maharaj, if we see the story, of Amrish Maharaj, where he was not doing anything apart from engaging his senses, and even somebody, uh, when he was challenged, then God was on his side. So the point is, this method of bhakti yoga, is very practical, is very easy to follow. At the same time, we have to ensure that all our senses are engaged. If even one of our senses is not engaged in bhakti yoga, then it will be difficult, because there's so many pitfalls. And then we have the example of Haridas Thakur also, that how he was engaging in Krishna consciousness constantly. He was chanting, and and some society girl had come to, and she was sent actually, and despite that, she could not break her devotion. She could not break his devotion, and finally she also ended up becoming a devotee. Right. So that is the power of bhakti yoga, where all he was doing continuously hours, 24/7, was chanting. We all know he was born in a Muslim family, and he was and still, though he was Brahma, but still, he was in the body of a Muslim family. And despite not doing what Vishwamitra had done, or Saubra Muni had done for ages, and this is just 500 years. So he has shown practically that it is possible. Plus, we are talking about somebody who is doing 24 hours, 24/7. We have so many examples in current world, that if people are just following the basic rules which are set up by Prabhupada, then this Ashtanga yoga process is obviously followed. And finally, the end eighth limb, eighth part is samadhi. Where you have a realization of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan, and finally you come to this conclusion. So if you see, many people who follow this process for lifetimes, they achieve it. But there are so many pitfalls to it. One can fall at any time, and if we directly start Bhakti Yoga, automatically Ashtanga Yoga, as I have just explained, how each and every process of Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 processes, we are following while doing Bhakti Yoga, or whoever is doing Bhakti Yoga. Of course, one needs time to do, one needs time to excel in this, but gradually, as it is mentioned in the 66th verse of 18th chapter, that eventually it will happen. Just surrender unto. So so Krishna is not some political leader who is saying something, and we can't trust it. If Krishna is saying something, then we need to trust. We just need to follow the process. It has been made very easy by our acharyas. It has been made very easy by Prabhupada, and his disciples like Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj disciple like Vidur Prabhu, who has who is coming and distributing it to people in their homes, sitting in the comfort of their homes. Whether COVID, no COVID, still, these things are happening. So we need to, make proper utilization of this, because and in this lifetime, if we have reached this platform, and it has already been mentioned that whatever we have will go away with us, but whatever progress we have done in spiritual world will continue to stay. So all I can say is that we are following Ashtanga Yoga already by doing Bhakti Yoga, and we are already controlling our senses by doing Bhakti Yoga. We do not need to sit on deer skin and in a secluded place. We are already in the Samadhi mode if we are following the 16 rounds or anything, whatever we have our targets. Okay. And finally, we have all these examples. Basically these examples have been put in terms of so that we can take lessons from them, and we don't get into the same routes where say for instance Vishwamitra had formed. And why they have example of Vishwamitra and all are explained, because they were elated people, they were highly elevated people, they were not normal people. So if they can fall, then normal people can obviously fall. So thus, let us stick to the simple process which Acharya has given, and based on that we can ensure and we can hope that soon in this lifetime or upcoming lifetimes we will be able to achieve the final samadhi. So that's all what I wanted to explain on this. If there is anything which anybody wants to add, you can add. Prabhuji, anything? Otherwise, I am done. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you? I think you are sharing the screen, right? If you can. Okay, is it okay now, right? Okay, so is there any specific comments, questions by devotees? Then I can. So I'll.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Kapil Prabhuji, I think it was very good. Especially, it's a comment, no specific question. How all the Ashtanga Yoga, including Bhakti Yoga, this is very nicely explained, because at least I never thought of it. In the sense, somehow I would not have read, but it is well explained, Prabhuji, because otherwise we will say that they are mutually exclusive. Something like, at least thanks for clarifying that. That was very good point, Prabhuji, and it was very nicely explained, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandvat pranams. What a wonderful class. Wonderful class. So very pleasing to see you give a class. I remember we attending Bhakti Vriksha and Vidur Madhava Prabhuji's house, and how after everything was done, you would still be asking questions. Of course, we all would have questions and would be asking, and how persistently you would be asking questions till it get clarified. So it's very inspiring and very pleasing to hear from you. We all have come a very long way, and just to finally hear you give explanation, this is like a very wonderful thing, Prabhu. Worth commending and worth praise.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. I am, still asking those kind of questions, but basically,
Yeah.
it is the humility of all the senior devotees in the group, that they have, and Prabhuji, basically, you got seeing me sitting here, but basically, I am sitting in Prabhuji's lap. It is just that I am doing a job of a speaker. I am myself quite nervous that why, in spite of so many senior devotees, Prabhuji is selecting a junior like me. But I am also inspired, by all the senior devotees who are in the group. I have had a lot of close communication with all of you. So basically, whatever I am giving here is just the something which I have collected from all you people.
So I just wanted. It was very pleasing to hear somebody. We would be sitting like all God brothers, and now just to hear your words, it's like very. I'm feeling very good um, after all those association, finally today you give a class, which is a very high maturity, very high level of maturity to see another preacher come up and take this role. So this is very inspiring, Prabhuji.
Right from going to nursery till this class, I have not done anything without a push. So wherever I have been pushed, whether it is my material father or my spiritual father, Vidura Prabhu, I am doing only because of the push.
Hari bol. Yeah, and your explanation is very wonderful, Prabhu. You gave all the examples so that so it's easier for anybody to understand. So very elated and very pleased to see you give class. Hari bol, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for
Hari bol. Hari.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, very nicely explained Prabhu, nice class.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thanks to Vidura Prabhuji also for pushing the juniors to take into preaching classes and all. Nice, very nice.
Yes, Mataji.
Points are very clear.
Prabhu. Yes, Mataji, all credit goes to Vidura Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, my pranam for today's your debut.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And I'm remembering there is one debut captain in New Zealand.
Yes,
that was the first match, but he just debuted itself a captaincy.
I know.
Like that. So my thanks to Vidura Prabhu for doing this kind of perfect experiments from his perception. So that is what Prabhupada exhibited many a times, and Guru Maharaj exhibited. And it was surprise for me. Today you are giving class like that, but undoubtedly, firstly I would like to thank you for a wonderful class.
Thank you.
So just the same topics what you have spoken. I heard from recently Maharaj left due to Corona. What is Maharaj's name?
Bhakti Charu
Charu Maharaj. So exactly just I was recalling whatever the points you have been telling. Really it was wonderful and mind-boggling. Really it was well matured way of transforming or conveying the things. Really it was wonderful class, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. And one thing it is not this thing the peculiarity of these two verses, what the uniqueness, because this 5th chapter is all about karma yoga, but here it is everything dealing about dhyana yoga. So that is a teaser for next chapter, sixth chapter. So perfectly, it is coming. I was thinking, how come, it is related to this karma yoga or nishkama karma yoga like that. So the one who reached that level automatically, can understand, this, as you quoted many examples like Vishwamitra Muni and, all other examples, and all these 8 stages, So all these things are wonderful. Thanks, Prabhu.
Thank you,
wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhu. And, I also must thank you for all the training which you have given. I was asking Vidura Prabhu that so many senior plays are there. Why a debutant you are choosing? But
my wife is giving some comment. So keep on. We cannot run around the bush. People like Vidura Prabhu will catch you and bring you. Very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for nice to hear from you. Thank you for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Krishna, Prabhu. Today class really it's wonderful. And the thing is, that all the 8 sections of this Ashtanga Yoga, you have chosen each and every section and correlated with the bhakti and day-to-day life, how we are doing it. including that Haldiram example, and then how this has been related. We'll offer to Krishna and then eat. So, in dhyana, dharana, do's, don'ts, all 8, whatever you are correlated, is really easily we can understand how it is related to day-to-day life and to the bhakti yoga and what we are practicing it on a daily basis. Really wonderful, Prabhu. Very nice class today.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. So,
Very nice class, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Rohit Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
okay, so nice that your classes goodness is actually being commented by everyone. Literally, everybody has commented. Whoever is participating have given some kind of a comment. That is very nice. And also what I am also proud of is this, this team's feeling of that family, that brotherly feeling. Everybody is very happy to see one of them really come up and do a wonderful job. That feeling is amazing. Everybody is so feeling happy as though they gave their class themselves. So very nice. The
but
mood
Prabhuji,
is very nice. Wonderful mood here, right? Yes, Prabhu.
This may be because they may be thinking if this guy can do, then everybody can do.
No, they're genuinely happy for you. I could see
Yes, Prabhu,
our Ankit Prabhu, Subbarayam. Everybody is so happy that you have actually given. They are remembering the days together we have been doing. That was all very nice.
Yes, Prabhu.
So fantastic. You had actually related it in a very nice manner, and I think you also kept the mood of Srila Prabhupada in. Generally, if you really see, this is a verse on yoga, right?
Yes.
Then the expectation is to just talk on yoga, but then Prabhupada tries to bring it back to what actually it is.
Yes.
And you have actually kept that mood there. That was very nice, and you also nicely related that to see how it is automatically being done. I just want to add a few things. One thing is, see, Yogasana is actually an authorized method. So nobody is actually trying to say therefore yoga is not good or anything like that. So that's something which we wanted to put that clear. Yogasana is one of the authorized method, therefore Krishna has actually spoken about it. Otherwise, why would he waste his time talking about it? But the point that Kapil Prabhu was bringing about, what Prabhupada is again and again bringing out, whenever there is some other aspects being spoken about, we need to understand why it is being spoken up like that. Yogasana, there are different techniques used for different achieving a particular thing, right? For example, you will have different syllabus, different boards are there for getting to your higher secondary examination. There could be a CBSE, there could be a state board, whatever like that. So they're all giving us that same knowledge, right? And then you are recognized for the same purpose. So the yoga was one of the methods that was also prescribed by the Lord for someone to actually achieve perfection, achieve Krishna. So that's the original expectation of yoga. But we have also discussed, in various yugas there are different processes prescribed. In that sense, the Satya Yuga was more aligned to the yoga process. So now, but we are in the fag end of the cycle, which is basically the Kali Yuga. So in Satya Yuga, people could live for 1,000 years, and then they can actually maybe physically or also in a position to do certain asanas, for example, right? How many of us can stand upside down or do any of these difficult processes? Or for that matter, when you are traveling in your car, can you stand upside down? So even then, it's limited to a certain point in time. But like Kapil Prabhu was mentioning, you can do your chanting while in the car or while you are sitting in the toilet also. I mean, he didn't mention that, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned that. Actually, this Maha Mantra can be performed even, when you are in the toilet. So you can see how practically this can be applied almost the whole day in whatever state we are in. And of course, we have a very limited time in Kali Yuga than compared to a Satya Yuga where people lived 1,000 years. Here, even living 40 years or 50 years nicely is a big thing. So then, physical living is one, and then most of the time we are dead, right? You all know the story that 20 years, Lord gave 20 years for man, 20 years for the dog, 20 years for the ass, and 20 years for, one of the monkey like that. So then they all went and said, how can I be a monkey for 20 years? It is too much. So he gave 40 years for everybody. So like, they were, oh, it is too much for me. Give me only 20 years. So like this, everybody was saying, but this man actually said, no. Why only 20 years, 40 years for me? You give me more. So then the Lord said, okay, I will give you 20 years of the donkey, 20 years of the monkey, 20 years of the, like this. And therefore, if you see, we break up our life into 20 years, then you see your 20 years you are living, working so hard like an ass. 20 years you are like a monkey, these are different things that are happening. I heard it in one of the things So the point is, in Kali Yuga, we have a very short span of life, and then to do all these things, what is prescribed in the yogic process to attain perfection. See, yoga is for attaining perfection. It is not just a gymnastics. See, that's the point. The purpose of yoga, it is a mechanical process to align you to the Supreme. He talked, right? Connecting with the Lord. That's the yoga means to connect with the Supreme. Prabhu mentioned it in the beginning. So to connect you to the Supreme, there are some people who are not able to, some would like to do it in a mechanical process. Therefore, this yoga process was given where you control like each one, do's and don'ts are more from a physical point of view, right? And then from there you move on to the pranayama, which is again controlling your 5 different airs within the body, which further controls different aspects of that. And then, focusing on, and then, meditating on. What are you meditating on? That dhyana is, what is it? Dhyana is to meditate on the Supreme Lord who is inside you, that Paramatma. Right? So the yoga process is actually, see, if you see the concept of the Lord, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, then Bhagavaniti. The Brahmeti is seeing the Lord everywhere. The second one is Paramatma, it means looking at the Lord inside. So you are trying to look at the Lord everywhere, but then at one stage, people come to this understanding that, no, why goes everywhere? The Lord is inside me only. That's Paramatma. And then they try to actually look at that Lord, and for such people, the yoga process will also work. But today, what is happening? Why all this so much, why yoga, so much of beating yoga is because the process of yoga has been misinterpreted, mishandled, and mistaught by people. Because yoga is today taught for people to become more sense gratifying abilities, right? The yoga has been taught today to say that, your health will improve there, and you can actually, in more corporates, they are very happy to take up yoga because that is going to help them focus and do more material karmic activity, right? The idea of this yoga is taken today as either at a physical level to do some exercises which will help you to become very strong. And the inner meaning of that is, after becoming strong, what am I supposed to do? After 50, I become strong, what I would do more sense gratification, right? I will live longer and I will enjoy more. So the interpretation of why this yoga is there is lost today. But then generally they say you meditate on void and some other things. Like, nobody is telling you meditate on the supreme form of the Lord inside your heart. Nobody is telling you. But there are the true yogic practitioners may tell you, but like, they say first, but they don't give, like here Prabhupada gives, in every verse he gives the ultimate aim of the, Bhagavad Gita. But there they tell, okay, first he starts with yama, niyama, he will give you some yama related stuff, you do this. So your thinking goes, okay, this is the only thing that I need to do. Then he says, someday you will come to the niyama side, then you will come. So we don't even know what we are chasing, but we will follow the rules and regulations. So then in the process, our mind will get attracted to some, following this rule itself is a great thing. Maybe the purpose of life is to do the yama. Purpose of life is to do the niyama, like that. But the purpose of life, all of these things is actually to achieve that Supreme Personality of Godhead, which somehow in today's real practice is missing. And that's the point we are trying to drive that. Therefore, there is no real proper practitioner who can actually take you to the end. So why you waste your time given that you have a short span of time? And particularly in Kali Yuga, the method used is simply Harinama Sankirtan, and that is one of the most important ingredient of what Prabhu was talking about, the Bhakti Yoga. So that's the simplicity. Not that we want to say yoga is not. Yoga is perfectly authorized, but there is always time, place, and circumstances. And this particular period in the evolution of this history of this earth, or whatever we call it, the Kali Yuga, is not preferable for doing some kind of a very hard exercises. Even sitting in like right now, some of us are sitting in this asana, right? We are sitting in that like the lotus position. basically. But how many of us are able to really sit for 2 hours and then listen to a class or give a class, right? It's very difficult. Even sometimes when we give class, people want to sit on a thing and put their leg down. They don't put it in the lotus feet position to do, because it's very difficult. In today's condition with so many ailments and that the environment is like that. And particularly to perform yoga, the first and most important aspect is brahmacharya. You will see this in the next chapter. But today, everyone is allowed to do every sense enjoyment. Even if he's 70, they are encouraged to do the sense enjoyment, but come for the yoga class. But yoga means first starting point is brahmacharya. If you are not a brahmachari, you are not even qualified to perform yoga. Krishna will tell you that. I am not saying. Going forward, we will see in the next chapter. And of course, Krishna finally in the next chapter concludes of all the yogis, yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantara atmanaha. So he is basically trying to say one who is actually fixed in me, he is the most best yogi with whom I am intimately connected. So he is actually trying to say, okay, this is a process, he is explaining it, but he is not basically recommending it. Neither does Arjuna want to take it up that way. So that's why we are always somehow, verses about yoga, but here Kapil Prabhu is talking about bhakti. What is this? That is perfect. That's how it has to be. And that's the way we need to understand and take it forward, because we are not yoga specialists. We like he nicely said, yoga is already part and parcel of it. Yoga is not the objective. Yoga is a means. Yoga is a means to achieve something else. But in bhakti, the means and the end both are the same. So that's very simple. As you do, the means itself is the end. There is nothing like, when you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, after achieving perfection also you will be chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So what's the, it's all both the same, in that sense. So that's the little bit of angle I wanted to give, so that, it's now holistically addressed, that people don't get this impression, okay, therefore, we are something against yoga, nothing like that. So, but a wonderful class, Prabhu. So, thank you for this wonderful class. Looking forward to hearing more and more classes from you also. And it is always nice to get different views, right? Matter is the same, but each one has a flavor of explaining things. Each one's experiences in Krishna consciousness is very varied and very wonderful. So, it will be very nice for all of us to hear different speakers. And it is really enriching. And you have done a fantastic job today. I am really grateful for your class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? We can take, otherwise we can close.
Hare Hare. So, Prabhuji, if I would have known today's Kapil Prabhu's class, I would have put his photo in the poster. The poster we distribute saying that new preacher in town.
Prabhuji.
Very, very, but very nice, Prabhuji. Very nice to hear you.
I know I'm a junior, but don't drag me.
No, Prabhuji.
He has so much love for you, Amarendra Prabhu. He's actually brimming. He's literally brimming with this. If you see Amarendra Prabhu, he would be like this, I think. He's so happy for you.
No, I logged in, Prabhuji, and I see Prabhuji shining in brand new kurta and glow on his face.
Nice. Very sincere.
I mean, I thought it was some Prabhuji's wedding anniversary or some celebration today. But
Prabhuji, this is Devu. As he said, and on Devu only, Prabhuji has given me captaincy, opening everything.
But very nice, Prabhuji, very nice. I mean, I seriously remember that time when in Vedur Madhava Prabhuji's house, we would be, after prasadam, we would be rolling the paper plates, the leaf plates, and you would still be asking questions. I mean, everybody would be asking, but you would be asking till it's answered. And I remember that. So very nice.
Prabhuji, it's only because of those paper plates that I could come here.
It's for everyone, Prabhu. It's for everyone. Just association is very important. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hari Hari.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your love.
Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for this wonderful evening. So we will look forward. Next week we will again meet. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, viewers on YouTube. We will meet again next week. Hare Krishna.